Cast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good afternoon. This is Tiffany Junkins, Manager of Family and Support Programs. I am sitting in today for Saratho Burgess Burnett, who may be on very shortly. We're having a little technical delays, but nonetheless, I just wanted to go ahead and get us started. And as we're thinking about 2021, we're in new beginnings. This is a new year. We're very excited to be here with you guys to start anew. And to go ahead and kind of kick this year off. With that being said, all of our executive directors, program directors, and other stakeholders that may be listening, we just want to let you know that we really appreciate the work that you're doing, whether it's in our center-based programs, whether it's in our home-based programs, family child care homes alike, whether it's remote or in person. We really appreciate the work that you're doing. With that being said, we're going to go into the agenda for today. Next slide. All right, so we're going to do some quick introductions. We do have some new staff that we wanted to introduce you guys to. And then we're going to go into some of our deputy updates. We're going to talk a little bit about reporting and the responsibility of our delegate agencies in and around positive COVID-19 cases. And then we want to definitely be able to kind of pull together some of the data that we've collected in our programs through December so that we can kind of show you that visual and what it looks like. We also want to talk to you about Focus Area 1 and that monitoring review as we know that we're going to be going through a Focus Area 1. And so we wanted to make sure that, that we talk to you about that a little bit. We're going to also go through our enrollment update, want everybody to know where we sit in that space. And then I have some administrative updates that I wanted to kind of end the meeting with. So that's what our agenda looks like. And without further ado. Yay, Saratho!
Hey, I knew it. Hi.
Right, good deal. So we just went through the meeting agenda.
Yes,
we can jump right in.
All right, thanks everyone, and I apologize. Technology was not my friend this afternoon, but I'm here with you now. So good afternoon, and glad to be with you as always. We do have some information we'll be sharing as we go through, but the first thing I wanted to do was do some introductions because, even in COVID, we've been very busy, and we've been able to actually bring on a few new staff in the department or in the division, and so just wanted to go through and talk a little bit about them. And and if they're on and can be unmuted, they can say hello themselves. But as you can see here on the screen, we have a new manager. That role previously was Rima, but Latasha White is our new manager, and so we welcomed her at the end of December. We have Seth Rich, who's an assistant director in the operations team. William Hill, assistant director in the quality team. Karen Perkins, who's a supervisor, and she's over in our communications on the admin side. And then Martrice Brooks, supervisor, she is over on the operations side. And so we've got 5 new people that have started over the last few months, getting grounded in the work of CSD and our division and all the things that we do. But we are really, really happy to have them. As you know, having those vacant positions meant that some other people were doing everything that they could to carry the load. But it's great to have all hands here as we do now on our leadership team. I'm not sure if Latasha is on, and if she is, she can be unmuted and she can say a couple of words if she'd like to.
I am here. Thank you.
Great, go ahead.
Hi, everyone. I am new to the Child Service Division in this position, but of course, I know many of you from my work with Teaching. So if you took any observer training, timer training, or any ISET training, things such as that, we probably came in contact with each other as I was the manager over all coaching and all training that you and your staff received through Teachstone. So I am happy to be working with you all NCSD in this greater capacity. And I really look forward to meeting and speaking with you and supporting you in the near future. My responsibilities are the operations and quality unit. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to reach out to me at any time. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Latasha. So the other members of the team, and I just wanted her to chime in really quickly. Some of you have already had conversations because people have been busy doing the work, and so they've had an opportunity to chime in and meet some of the individuals on their teams, and who they are working with either through operations or through communications. But we will definitely be sending out more information about all of our new folks, and we're really glad and happy to have, even through COVID, the ability to still get our arms out there in community and bring on some new people. I don't know if Seth or William are on.
Yeah, I'm on, Rachel.
Okay, Seth, go ahead.
Okay. Hey, everyone. I just wanted to say hello. I'm so grateful to be working here and working with all the wonderful delegates. I am familiar with many of you, and I'm so excited and looking forward to continuing working with you. I'm currently in the operations unit. I'm working closely with teams B and team C, and in addition, closely with our health service vendors. Thank you.
William.
Yes, good afternoon. Thank you, Sarito. Thank you, team. William Hill, AD of our quality program development and quality unit. Over 20 years of experience in the field of early education, Head Start, from the classroom to administration. Looking forward to continue to do that work at this level and collaborating with the delegates across the city. Thank you much.
Thanks, William. Karen.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Karen Perkins. I'm the new supervisor for the communications team. I'll be working with the team specifically on internal and external communications. So if you are reading our CSD update, I'm kind of a part of that realm, but I'm really glad to be here, and I look forward to meeting you guys in person in the near future. And yeah.
Thanks, Karen. Martrice.
Hello, everyone. I'm Artise Brooks, supervisor for Team B with a focus on family and community engagement. I do look forward to working with everyone. Thank you.
Thanks, Martise. Just wanted to give you an opportunity to hear their voices. I know we're going to get to a point where we'll get to see all of our faces again as we continue to move forward and get past COVID-19 and this pandemic. But we all know we're not there yet. And it was, about 45 days, again, and when we're looking at this calendar year where we actually, started closing doors and trying to figure out how will we do our programming and everything that we do. And I just, can't thank all of you enough for everything that you've done over these last months on behalf of children and families. And really happy again to have new staff members to help us as we forge ahead to the next iteration of our work. So the next update that I do want to do, and I mentioned it before, we have had follow-up reviews, and those follow-up reviews were directly in response to incidents that had occurred. Follow-up reviews are very similar to a federal review in that you are documenting everything that you've done, being interviewed, and making sure that you are able to state that you've corrected all of what had happened and how you got there, and you put policy systems and procedures in place to avoid those continued incidents or activities from happening as a grantee. Very happy to report we did have 2 follow-up reviews in the fall of the year. We have received notification from Office of Head Start that based on those follow-up reviews that all of our deficiencies were corrected through that process. Now, that did not stop the grant from going into recompete. What it did is it showed that we have systems in place that those of you that are out there who were impacted by either one of these incidents, you've shown yourself to have been able to correct it within your own house, but they were also able to see that we changed the required systems and policies and procedures here as a grantee to ensure that we could have future compliance in these areas. So I thank everyone who's participated. We had different delegates who were on those meetings with us, who submitted documentation, who were interviewed, who took technical assistance. Thank all of you for everything that you've done with and around these issues. And again, just wanted to report to all of you that those deficiencies that were on our Head Start, Early Head Start grant were corrected as a result of that work. The other thing I do want to mention, Office of Head Start program instruction, that there is an interim final rule on flexibility for Head Start designation renewals. You see the number here. We do want you to continue to go to eClick, continuing to keep up with everything and everything that it says about the work, making sure that you are keeping up with what those fiscal flexibilities are. We do know that our fiscal flexibility ended September of 2020. In that we could just be closed and pay salaries. But what it also states is even though we are still in COVID-19, we have to be making informed choices, informed meaning data and information, helping us figure out what we need to be doing in community to continue to serve children and families in Head Start, as is our responsibility. And we do have to continue to be open where we can be open. Of course, there's some impacts of COVID-19 cases where we've had to close classrooms, et cetera. But we do have an opportunity to continue, as we should, to continue to serve families every day. Yes, we can still serve them both in classrooms and we can still do remote, but we definitely have to have our policies and procedures in place for how we're doing that so that it aligns with all of your fiscal policies, all of your risk management procedures, and all of those things as you're making decisions in your house in response to what the impacts are from COVID-19. And so please make sure that you have a copy of that, when we're thinking about certain emergencies, pandemic and health emergencies, there are other emergencies that, one agency might go through. We're hoping for none, but we recognize that there are other emergencies where you may have to close your door and you have to have systems in place to justify and determine what you do for children and families, even through that process. If you have to close your building, say, for example, for a flood, can't think of anything else off the top of my head right now. But if there was one and you had to close your door, what would you do with it for families? COVID-19 has gotten us all thinking about how we can move from center-based to remote, which is absolutely great. Gives us another way of thinking about how we can still stay in touch with and serve families. But you still need to, in your procedures and your organization, definitely have them aligned to what kind of decisions you would make in case of an emergency. And your risk management plans need to be very clearly delineated and defined, and that's what you need to follow through this. If you need any assistance with any of that, please don't hesitate to let us know. But just wanted to remind all of you of that. The last one on this particular page, and as we've all heard, we've moved forward in our vaccine rollout. We are now in the state of Illinois in 1B. When we move to 1B, there are certain individuals in that category, individuals 65 and over, such as myself. And then all of those who are in early education, you've got teachers, you've got, emergency responders. Yes, you got frontline workers, you've got, individuals who are in grocery stores. And, it is all of those individuals who really hold up our nation in the work that we do are included in 1B. What that means is there's a huge number of people that's included in that. But one that is definitely included, and we want to reiterate again, it is early learning. You are included in this particular category. And so with that said, being in this category, what we want to do is make sure that you know that there is a website, which we will definitely send out again. It'll come out in our update, and was talked about a lot with the mayor's office yesterday. CDPH was on it, and also Illinois Action for Children. But going to that website, there is a survey. So if you have 250 or less employees, there's a survey that you can complete, which will allow you to actually get the information needed so that you can get your staff vaccinated. One of the things that was very clearly defined also in that meeting yesterday that I'll reiterate is that the availability of vaccine will determine how quickly we're able to get through 1B and into 1C. But right now, as of Monday, we did move into 1B, which means there's a lot of people now that are able to be vaccinated. And so one of the things that I do want to make sure that we do is we think about all of what it is that we need to be doing and working within our organizations with our staff, making sure that they're fully vetted and understand this vaccine and rollout and all of that, and that they're going onto the website and finding out more. And so I'm going to turn it over to Tiffany so that she can comment a little bit about the final rule that's on here as well. So Tiffany, why don't you go ahead?
Thank you so much, Sarito. But before I do that, is it okay if we go ahead and introduce Stacy Lind? We did not forget about you.
You know what?
Last but not least.
You know what? And we left her name off. Please forgive me. Please, Stacy. Stacy Lind, who is our project manager, who came on last fall as well. And one of her large roles is Chicago Early Learning. And she's that person who is working with us, the Mayor's Office and CPS. But Stacy Lind, if you're on, I'm sorry.
Hi, everyone. My name is Stacy, and I'm happy to be here, and I look forward to working with everyone. No apologies necessary, Sarito. Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead, Tiffany.
All right, thank you so much. So yeah, I just wanted to mention regarding the interim final rule, because it's still open for comment. And so whenever you have those items that are tentative to be permanent on the Federal Register, there is a comment period. And because it's still open, I wanted to make sure all of you knew that you had until February the 5th, 2021 to comment. One of the things that that this particular program instruction talks about is it's really about the 1304 subpart B designation renewal system with DRS. And it's saying, hey, when we have disasters, then there's certain information that we need to have. And so most of the guidance that we have is in around the federal government being able to conduct those class assessments. But as we see with the pandemic, they're not able to go in here and class any of our classrooms due to health and safety concerns. So they want us to be able to kind of be open to what this new guidance is, giving them that flexibility when we have disasters or emergencies. And so I wanted to make sure that you guys knew that you were able to go ahead and comment regarding what could possibly become a new regulation for us. And so it's open for comment till February 5th. So I hope that you guys take a look at it and weigh in. Thank you.
Thanks, Tiffany. Want to open up a document so that you can see. And first, thank you. We know that as we were going through this, we were asking that you give us reports on COVID-19 cases in your sites and your programs. We know that you were reporting to CDPH. We know that you were reporting also to your licensing rep. But just wanted you to know that, you know, as I've said before, we take in all of the information that comes to us. And we do have a data system where we're putting all of that information in so that we can kind of keep track of it. One of the things that was said yesterday by CDPH was, as we know in early education, we know the numbers have, based on the number of sites that are open, children that are being served, these numbers are small in comparison. And we have not seen spread. We've seen multiple cases in sites. I'm not saying that we have not seen that. And I'm not saying that in communities, some communities were not harder hit than others. That's absolutely true. But one of the things that we've been able to see both at the state level and also through our programs here in Chicago is that we have not seen incidents of absolute spread where it just takes out a whole team, all of the classroom and all of these individuals in one place, all coming down with COVID at the same time. What we do know, and if you can go to the first tab for me, Tom. One of the things that we are able to do, and we're listing the communities and actually names of sites where we're getting reports, and this information actually feeds into what it is that we're getting when you see the different charts that I'm going to walk through. But again, it just lets us see how many cases. And so if you've been reporting and you've been giving us the information, it's been fed into this data system so that we can keep up with what's going on. To help me in talking with CDPH and the mayor's office about any concerns that we have. Go to community area for me, by community area, please. And thank you. So if you look across the bottom, it identifies all of the community areas. And if you look at this, what you can see is every community area where you are located, where our children are, every one of them have not had multiple cases. Some have only had one, and some have, but again, what we're trying to do is keep up with where we see larger numbers, and then how often are we seeing those numbers, and are these children, are these staff, what is this looking like, to give us some idea. If you look all the way across the right, there are 219 cases, and this is through the month of December. This is not in the month of January that we're ending, but it was through December. And so since we started actually keeping this documentation, what it's allowed us to do is see over each month how things are going out in community, helps us understand what's going on in each community area, in wards. And then if you can go over to the next one where it says by ward, it breaks down to the ward number. Again, one of the things that I want you to remember is we're reporting data all the time, not just internal, but external. And so we report directly, because we're a city agency, we report directly to aldermen. So in keeping track with this, so if there's questions about any ward, we're able to exactly go into a document and say what we know, but we're then able to say over what amount of time did these numbers calculate, because we also look at it by month. So if you can click to the by month. And so what you'll see here is it gives us some idea of what month did we really see numbers, and where did we see the largest number. November, across our nation, across our state, there were all kinds of spikes, and I know all of you felt it out there. So a large number of these cases were reported in November. Scroll down a little bit for me. And so in September, when you're thinking about it, there were 12, but in the month of November alone, there were 103 reports from you guys that came into us. That's huge. So we were keeping our hands on the number, but trying to see how many were in any site, and also trying to see who was reporting. Is this a staff? Is this a parent? We also know that in November, we got really, really nervous because of the spike, but we also had holidays in there. And we had parents who were, there was holidays in there, people were off for Veterans Day. And then again, you had Thanksgiving in there. And so, some decisions were made by some of you that I'm just going to close down, let people stay home with their families. We'll reopen a little bit later. And, which were legitimate concerns that you had. And what we were saying to you then is, please make sure it's documented. If you don't have this in your risk management plan, if you've not communicated to your parents, make sure that you do so that everybody understands exactly what's going on and what your plans are and what your reasons are for making these kinds of determinants. But again, what you can see, the number in December actually did go back down, and we'll be calculating at the beginning of next week to see exactly what did January look like. I know we had some anticipation over the Christmas holiday and New Year holiday to see, we were thinking that it would be a big spike, and many people decided to close again for a longer period of time between Christmas and New Year's, and doing everything that you could to mitigate risk. And so based on what we have in our report, we'll be able to see what the January looked like based on some of the information and some of the anticipation. If you can click on by person for me. And so when you're giving your report and the staff are asking you specific questions, and here are some of the reasons that they're doing that, we're trying to see how many cases are we getting where there's children. When we first started getting reports, we were getting reports about staff. We weren't getting the number of reports about children, but we started later in the fall to begin to see, cases of children being reported. So about 22% of the total were children, but 71% of those, based on your reports, were your staff. Again, when we think about staff, these are individuals who are walking into the building. And so your mitigation plans of stopping people at the door, and you're constantly saying to them, if you're sick, stay home. Don't come back until you can. If you are, impacted by COVID, you have to do the 14 days or whatever number of days that you can't do all of the things that we're talking about. And again, it is all of that work that you've done that have kept these numbers down and allowed you to continue to operate, allowed us in the city of Chicago to continue to operate, and at the state level as well. Keeping our hands on this information has helped us in our conversations both with the city and with the state. So I can't thank you enough for all of what you do consistently to mitigate this. We anticipated and we knew if we're going to open up our doors and there's COVID, COVID's going to walk in. The flu walks in, hand, mouth, and foot walks in, and we know that. But what all can we do to try to keep us from having spread and from it just taking us completely out of the ability to operate? And so again, I do want to thank you. And so the numbers behind this is 153 of the reports, and were about staff. 16 of those were parents, and there were total of all of the ones that were reported. There were 50 children across the city in our programs. And again, the state is keeping their data. This is gleaned from the data that we get from all of you. So again, continue to do your reporting to CDPH, continue to give it to us so that we can continue to keep our hands and our eyes on this so that we know what's happening. And when we need to raise our hands, for example, to the city or to the state to say, we've got some concerns here and we need some assistance. So again, I thank you. You can bring that report down. Thank you, Tom. So the next slide that I'm going to go over, really FA1, and I talked about this before. We have been notified. We did receive our notification, our first notification, letting us know that we would be receiving an FA1. We did get that last fall, but what we also have not received, and it says pending for that reason. The process is they will let you know that you as a grantee have been selected to get this particular federal review monitoring visit. So we know we're going to get an FA1. We have not received the follow-up, which would be the 45-day notice, letting us know when it will start or who our lead for the monitoring team is. We've not received that as of yet. So, we keep our hands on it. We keep looking for it. Not that I'm trying to get it any sooner than it comes, but knowing that we have not received the 45-day notice. In preparation for that, some of the things that we are having our staff do, and I'm going to say that some of the things that I'm telling all of you you should be doing as well, is going on to eClick. There is a virtual process where you can go through and learn about the monitoring. If you have not, you should do that, have your team do that. In addition to that, make sure you pull down the document, which is the FA1 monitoring tool. There is a secondary piece, which is about COVID-19 specifically. So you should get that addendum as well. And you're already doing the work. And let me say this, through COVID, you've been enrolling children. Yes, you have still done that. You have been able to continue to bring all kinds of resources to your families. You've been doing everything that you can to keep moving things forward. And this is what I want you to continue to do as you move forward, and understand all of your documentation needs to be there so that that you can make sure that any documents that we're asking from you, from your policies, your procedures, all of the things that you've done, whatever it is we're looking for, and we will come back and talk a little bit more about that in a specific meeting about FA1, but just want to remind everyone it's coming. We don't know when, but the best thing you can do about any review is be ready. When they say the 45-day notice, you should already be ready and be prepared to just send documents to us as required. We'll keep you informed. The more we know, the more you'll know. So we'll be contacting you with our delegates to discuss this process. We'll be answering questions, making some recommendations, just like we did when we went through FA1. So I know there'll be more questions, and we do want to spend more time going over it. Just wanted you to know it's still pending, but pending doesn't mean it won't happen. We just have not been notified. So we will schedule another meeting, a follow-up, where we'll specifically, talk about the FA1 monitoring visit. It is virtual. It will not come. They're not coming to Chicago for this. It will be virtual, but they will be requesting documents, and they will be conducting interviews. Next slide.
All right, enrollment update. You want me to go ahead and take this, Rachel?
Yes, please, go ahead.
All right, sounds good. So enrollment, right now we are under enrolled across all of our grants. And if you guys have been keeping up with the information from the Office of Head Start, I think we all understand that there's some flexibilities as all across the country programs are under enrolled due to the pandemic. We still have a responsibility to make our programs accessible and available for those who need it. And we want to make sure that we're still kind of getting out the message that we are open for in-person as well as remote opportunities. Our home-based programs and home visiting programs are still operating as well. We're just doing it differently. With that being said, when we're looking at the enrollment post-rollover, if you look at the January 29th, 2021 information for Head Start, we've enrolled 5,589. Quite a ways off because we're funded for 9,274 children. So we have a ways to go in terms of the number of slots there. If we look at the number next to it, the Early Head Start number, we're enrolled at 1,799 infants and toddlers in the Early Head Start program model. We are funded for 2,162. So again, we're under enrolled in that program. For Early Head Start Child Care Partnership, we're enrolled at 758 infants and toddlers, but we're funded for 1,100. And the Early Head Start Expansion Grant, we're enrolled at 153, but we're funded for 200. So as you guys see across the board in all of the programs, we are under enrolled. We do have opportunities to still, continue to engage families in and around, services that they may need. Recruitment and kind of getting the word out about our programs may look a little different. And so, as we're kind of looking at these numbers and you're reflecting on, maybe your agency individually and trying to see what you're doing in and around enrollment and recruitment, and maybe looking back at your selection criteria, just want to make sure that we're doing our part to make sure that those who need our services, that we're making sure that the door is open for those individuals. We were talking to our staff earlier about, circumstances changing during the pandemic. Maybe those who were not eligible for our programs prior to the pandemic, maybe because they were over income, but due to change in circumstances, maybe lost a job, that sort of thing, unemployed, that perhaps, they can be eligible for our program. So taking a look at those waiting lists to try and see if we can, follow up with families who may, be in need of our services, and just making sure that we're continuing to do the outreach in the community, because we know that people out there do need the services that our Head Start programs provides. And according to where we are with our enrollment, it looks like we do have the capacity to be able to serve, but also understanding our limitations. We understand that, due to health and safety requirements, we may not be taking in as many, infants, toddlers, and preschoolers as we're used to taking in, because of spacing issues, and we want to go ahead and make sure that people can social distance in the classrooms and things like that. So not taking anything away from what you're doing as far as your risk mitigations and all of that, but understanding that we do have that flexibility to serve in person and also remote. We want you to take full advantage of providing those services to families, and hopefully in the way in which they really need those services to be provided, if at all possible. In the past, there is a recap, and that we've included just to kind of show you year over year, going from 2016 all the way to 2019, overall what our enrollment has looked like. This is quite the contrast from any year, as we are severely under enrolled. And thank goodness for the flexibility that we have. But once we see ourselves outside of this pandemic, we really do have to make sure that we do have a focus on our strategies for how we're going to get there with keeping every single seat filled. So, it's something for us to think about and plan now, so that way we can make sure that we're meeting what the Head Start performance standards is requiring us to do. But thank goodness for flexibility at this point. Thank you. Next slide. All right, I have some administrative updates. the federal government did give the CARES Act funding to all of our federal programs, and we were able to get those contracts out of the door. For those of you who received those contracts, you know that you got those contracts rather late in the year. And for a lot of you, there was a lot of underspend on those. I want you to know that we recognize that. And we actually submitted a no-cost extension letter to Region 5 so that we can get an extension of those funds into 2021. This is still pending. I do want to let you know that we believe it's going to be approved, but it hasn't. With that being said, you know, with the balance that you have, we're just saying, hey, just kind of hold tight, because these will require us to get new contracts out the door for 2021 once we get the approval from OHS that we can actually do the no-cost extension. So at this point, this matter is pending, but we will get back with you. I just wanted to let you guys know if you had any underspend on those CARES Act funds that was really, you know, in place to go ahead and really kind of mitigate your risk when it came to COVID-19 and the pandemic. And, you know, folks managed to use those funds to do some of the things that my deputy mentioned, you know, the deep cleanings and those health mitigation factors, social distancing, putting markers down on the floor, increased PPE, whether it's mask, hand sanitizer, disinfectant sprays, you know, wipes, more bleach. You know, we buy these things, but even more of it, those types of things. Some people, you know, chose to go ahead and bring in, you know, temperature scanning devices into their sites and really kind of embedded that as being an integral part of making sure that those scans, that everyone who walked in the facility was scanned first to make sure that you check for that temperature. But those are some of the things that we were able to do with the funding. And we want to make sure that if we are approved for the no-cost extension, that you will continue to be able to do those things in which you had originally planned to spend the funds on. So again, we'll get back with you regarding the CARES Act fund. We do think that it's important, but it is pending the Office of Head Start Region 5's approval. The next item I wanted to talk to you about was the 2021 GEARS funds. We're getting those contracts out the door, and GEARS funding is for our ECBG funded contractors. So if you have PFA or PI and you fall within 29 zip codes, these zip codes were selected by ISB CPS, and basically they took a look at where the pandemic kind of hit the hardest in the city of Chicago, and that's how those 29 zip codes were selected. So if you have a site within the 29 zip codes that were selected, then you should be receiving a contract for a specified amount under the GEARS funding. GEARS funding is federal funds, and it is passed from the feds to the state, to ISB. And ISB, of course, gives the money to CPS, and through an intergovernmental agreement, then the money is given to us and we distribute it to the delegate agencies who we contract with. So just wanted to let everybody know for purposes of their CFA that it is federal funding. And so make sure that if you are getting a contract for it, that you understand that this is federal. 2020 invoice deadline, and the invoice deadline is actually today. So I'm hoping that that for all of those who have invoices that need to be submitted, as you guys know, the city of Chicago's fiscal year is on the calendar year. So our fiscal year goes from January of any given year to December, so a calendar year. And so anything, any business that was transacted in 2020, our invoice deadline to get those invoices and vouchers submitted is actually today. Want to make sure that you're doing that. However, there is a caveat, because we still do have some contracts that are being processed that have not allowed you to be able to kind of, you know, do those invoicing. So for anyone who has an outstanding contract, I just want to go ahead and say that, yes, even though the contract is today, what we're going to be asking is that you have those, you know, make sure your vouchers are ready, because as soon as you get the approval, you're going to need to submit those vouchers right away with no hesitation. If this does affect you and you have some contracts that are still pending and you're wondering like, hey, Tiffany, what about me, sort of thing, please send me an email. Send me an email inquiring about your contract if this is you. But if you've been actively engaged with the staff and they've done some back and forth with you, and maybe there's some things that they needed you to update, that sort of thing, you don't have to reach out to me. But if you haven't heard anything and you're just wondering kind of where is my contract, please send me an email, Tiffany Junkins at cityofchicago.org, and I'd be more than happy to follow up with you to go ahead and track down and see if we can go ahead and get that expedited for you. The other administrative update that I wanted to mention, we're really excited about planning for the new program year, 21-22. It's like, wow, already? Yes, already. We're planning for the launch of our online preschool application for school year, program year 21-22. And so the tentative release date is going to be April the 21st, 2021. And so you guys will start to see us, putting marketing and messaging out there, out in the community. We're good for billboards and bus ads and, radio advertisement, digital media, and things like that. We will continue to do those things. If you guys have any innovative, creative ways that you feel that we should be including in our marketing and outreach strategies, please send me an email. I'm definitely open to hearing other suggestions. When we market citywide because we want to reach everyone from every corner and every angle that may be touched by any of our Head Start programs and sites, and also our PFA and PI programs and sites. So by all means, if you have any recommendations on how we can get there and make sure that people understand that we are open despite this pandemic, and all prospective parents can just know what their options are for our community-based program. That would be terrific. Next slide. All right.
All right, people.
There we go.
All right, thanks, Tiffany. So we wanted to just make sure that we had an opportunity to introduce you to all the new staff, give you some updates, and also remind everyone of all the things that we need to continue to do. And wanted to also, people have been asking about some of the information around COVID. But beyond that, what I wanted to also say is we're going to move to learning agenda next month. We had started it just before COVID. And ironically, we are coming a full year around from that. And the last time that we did a portion of the learning agenda, then it was around teaching strategies gold. And we need to come back and we need to talk about kindergarten readiness. As all of you remember, when we did the RFP, we focused on kindergarten readiness and wanting to make sure that all of our children transition from us, from our programs, whether they come in as infants and stay all the way through until they transition off to kindergarten. But when they leave us, that they leave us ready for kindergarten. So we're going to go back to that topic. We will give you the date and we will want your education staff on that meeting with you so that we can talk through some of the things that we need to be doing over this next year regarding kindergarten readiness. And I know it's been difficult. I know it's been hard because we've existed in all of this through remote learning. We've had teaching strategies. We've had Deb Sapalik work with staff to try to give staff some ideas on things that they could do to still gather all of the information that needs to go into the system, how they can work with parents to get information on what they're doing at home with their children, and how that becomes a note, and how making sure parents were aware of and accessing an Ready Rosie, which we also added as another piece. We added creative curriculum. We decided to put it in the cloud so your teachers could access it no matter where they were. So we've been doing these things because what we wanted to do was still be able to make sure that developmentally appropriate activities could happen with children, center-based, remote, or however your staff are engaging with them. But what we need to do is definitely talk about in a pandemic, in what has happened, where are we? And so between now and the next meeting next month, please pull your reports out of that system and see where your particular sites and your programs are. We will have the overall citywide, and we will want you to be talking about some of what's happening and what you've seen, some of the things that you've done differently, and then whatever supports, additional supports you might want or need from the division. And so we will schedule some time in the next meeting around learning agenda, and it will be around school readiness. And so again, your education staff and your preparation for that is to make sure that your reports are pulled from the system so you can talk about where you are. I've already asked staff, in addition to that, in our next meeting that we will be doing it through Zoom, so we can do a little bit more interactive work around these learning agenda. It's going to be hard to do it in this platform, but we will be using Zoom so we can do a little bit more. And we really need to just get busy with some of the other pieces of work that we need to continue to do. And so we're going to be staging it a little bit different, and we won't be so much of a talking head as I'm sure you're feeling like we are today. We will want to hear from you. We'll want to hear some of the things that's happening and working for you out there, things that you're doing differently. It's always an opportunity for learning peer-to-peer, meaning agencies are hearing from other agencies some of the things that they're doing that maybe you hadn't thought about doing. It may trigger something new for you that you'd be able to do with your teachers and staff. And believe me, we recognize that you guys have done some absolutely spectacular work out there, moving, on a dime from what you would normally do center-based, putting it in the air out there, over whatever platform you had to use. And I know that you've been working with your teachers. I know teachers have been going and getting a lot of training during this time. In our reports, you can see your staff that are still engaged in professional development around some of these same topics. And so we know these things are happening, but what we want to do is talk a little bit more. We want to look at data. We want to see where we are, and we want to plan forward. So those are some of the things that we're going to do in our next meetings. FA1, as I said before, will be a focus, but the other focus will definitely be us talking about kindergarten readiness and our teaching strategies goal. I do know we have some questions out here, and so we want to make sure that we have taken opportunity to answer some of those as well. So I'm looking at questions here. And so one of the questions is, do you have any enrollment information on PI home-based programs? Tiffany?
Yes, as a matter of fact, we do. But what was the question about the PI home-based programs?
If we have any enrollment information that's specific to PI home-based. And so can we break the number down and pull out the home-based numbers?
We sure can. As a matter of fact, I can put that in the chat. Let me retrieve it. We can go on to the next question, and I'll make sure I put it in the chat for everybody. The breakdown of center-based PI and home-based PI.
Perfect. Thank you. Here is about the zip codes. We'll send you the zip codes. I see, Cindy, you're asking that question. And so we'll let you know what zip codes. And again, they were identified from the funder, and these are in communities that were hardest hit. And then agencies that are in those specific zip codes are those that will be receiving GEARS funding. And so, yes, we can get some of that information out to you, Cindy. Do the GEARS funding apply to PI home visiting programs too? It applies, Catherine, directly to a community. And so if you're funded by ECBG for whatever work you're funded for in that community, those dollars would be there, and they would be specific for funding that you receive. And so if you're in a PI, in a 29 community, one of the 29, and you're in, you have block grant, then those GEARS funding would come, and it would be based on your allocated resources and numbers that you have. There's specific numbers of children that are being funded through this, and so it has to tie directly back. But if it's block grant funded, the answer would be yes. Asan, you're answering the same thing. What zip codes, will get that back out to you so that everybody who understands exactly which communities. Again, we didn't choose the communities. These came directly from the state. But when we did the allocated resources into our system, it had to be based on that information. The presentation is going to go up. What the staff will do, as always, as soon as we finish, Tom will spend time with it and doing everything that he needs to do to compress it and everything so that it can then go up on our YouTube website. And so it takes him a little bit of time. Technology is working extremely slow, so don't expect it in the next hour. but he will be working to get that compressed, and then it will go up. And again, he has to check the audio and everything else to make sure that it's even usable for you. How will you know if you were eligible for gears? Again, Scott, to that, once we give you the community areas, if you know you have PFA or PI in those communities, then what we can do is make sure that you know that you've been identified as one of those agencies that will be funded. We can get some of that information out so everybody can see that. I may have missed this, but is the FA1 review for both Head Start, Early Head Start? It is Head Start, Early Head Start CCP, and because we got expansion, it is the whole gambit. It is all of our federal funded programs because we had them under this last program or funded year. And so all of them are included in the FA1. And so regardless of which one you have, or if you have all of them, we're going to be working with you over FA1 as we did with agencies for FA2. But you need to start looking at it. You need to be looking at the topical areas. You need to be looking and making sure that you understand what all of them are. Everything's on eClick. And so I do recommend everybody spend some time with eClick. The other thing that we're going to also say to you is we want you to make sure that you're looking at the camp sessions. They are up on eClick. As I mentioned before, there's an addendum to the FA1, and it is specific to COVID-19. And these are the kinds of questions that they'll be asking, or things that you need to have been thinking about, is how did you respond to COVID-19? What did you do? How did you make sure that children and families were served? What changes did you make? What else did you have to do? How did you use your funding? All of those kinds of questions are wrapped up in the addendum. And so everybody needs to pull those down. So again, what we will be doing is having a meeting and going over it and pulling up some portions and talking about documentation and all of those different things as we do it. The topics under the FA1 go across all of what you would understand it to be, and it really goes from program management, program governance, to your enrollment, health and safety. Everything is included in the FA1. Now, one of the things that they lifted is it in relationship to COVID, and how did you do all of these different things, because they do recognize that, you know, programs were closed, you weren't serving children the same way. One of the things for us, if we're talking about enrollment, we're saying that we were enrolled and our enrollment has gone down over COVID. But what are we doing? What kinds of things we're putting in place to, you know, help you enroll more children? What kinds of things did you receive from us? You got your federal, you know, flexibility, which allowed you to still pay your staff, you know, and paying your staff. What were you able to do? You kept them busy working with children and families and getting professional development. So all of those kinds of things has consistently been done through this process. And I see a hand up, so I'm going to stop for a moment. And who has their hand up here?
Hi, Saritha. This is Tom.
Hi.
It looks like they took their hand down.
Okay, that's fine. And if you look into the chat box, Tiffany has put the numbers in there for you. She broke it down for you so you can see exactly what that enrollment is. And so that responds to the question that was asked earlier. When will you get the new contracts for the new PFA PI for next program year? We have not started all of those yet. We've got a lot of other things that we are working on right now. Tiffany, if you have any ideas about PFA PI for program year 21-22, wow, 21-22. But that's where we are, Cindy. We'll if Tiffany has a response to that, then I'll let her respond to that in just a moment. Yeah. So Latasha go ahead, Tiffany. I'm looking at questions, so go ahead and respond.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you can start to look out for those contracts to come out toward the end of May, beginning of June, as they start, you know, July 1. So right now we have been processing a lot of contracts through our contracts division, more so than even usual in the past because of the CARES funding across all of our divisions. So I don't foresee us getting them out anytime before May, or at least toward the end of May. So look for it around that time, Cindy, but always feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions. Thank you.
Thanks, Tiffany. Latasha, thank you. She's gone ahead and people were asking about focus area 1. She put all of the different pieces in there for you. So that response is in here so that people can see what all the different focus areas are for the FA1. There was a question from Asan. Oh, and I already put an answer for you. Regarding the GEARS funding, it is where your agency is located. It is not breaking down every family that's being served because we know they come from different places. And I'm sure you would feel, that might be a better way to dice and slice the dollars. But that's not how it was done, is that the agency is in that particular community, meaning that's your location. As a result of that, then you're on that zip code list. And then if so, then you're eligible for GEARS funds. Tiffany, there's a question in here from Bianca Woodard. This is about invoice for the fiscal year. Do I put December 2020 to November 20? I don't think you mean November 2012. So you might want to clarify that question, Bianca, so that we can answer it. She says she meant 2021.
She wants to know what's the...
On the invoice for the fiscal year, do I put December 2020 to November 2021?
If that's her contract year, I think what'll probably be best, Bianca, just so I can guide you in the right direction, is for you to contact me. I'll go ahead and put my email in the chat just to make sure that you get what you need from your invoice.
Yeah, Catherine, and again, yeah, if your PI home visiting office is not in the zip code, then you wouldn't be eligible for the GEARS fund because they tied it directly to that zip code that we have as far as the address. When we were pulling the information, we were told zip codes and who's in that zip code, and that is the list that was provided. And so again, it is tied directly to that, and we don't have the flexibility to move it in a different direction. As far as marketing materials, we are working with a vendor to try to get those things out as quickly as we possibly can. And I see you're saying that you have been requesting those 3 languages other than English. And yes, I have had conversations with you before. And again, I can apologize, but I apologized before, and I don't want to keep doing this. We need to do better. We need to get you the information that you need. And so when we're putting in the information request for materials, Tiffany is working, and now Latasha White, who is brand new, working directly with the vendors. And our working with vendors, we'll be trying to make sure that everything that we're asking them to do, that they're fulfilling all of those requests. That includes marketing materials. And so we'll keep our eye and our lens on where we are. And this is a conversation that we will lift again. I'm going to ask you to do me one favor, though, if you can send me an email. Because again, we're back a year from the last time we were doing this. Can you send me an email with the specific languages other than English and Spanish? And I don't want to speak out of turn. So if you can send me that email, that will be helpful so we can make sure that we're on board in working with that. Cindy has a question about, the submission of invoices today, but if there's a deletion from today, will they have a chance to resubmit? Tiffany, do you have an answer to that one? This is regarding invoices that would be going into the system today.
That's a good question, Cindy. I believe that we do give opportunities for you to resubmit for deletions, but I will follow up with the finance team just to make sure that that's the case. In years past, that was the practice, but I'll go ahead and follow up. So make sure you follow up with me to make sure that we firm up that answer.
Thanks, Tiffany. There's a couple of other questions that are in here too that I'm going to toss to you. And that is, and I think I know the answer. Again, you know me, I'm not going to put it out there in the aura. If approved, will the no cost extension be retroactive back to the end of the initial CARES Act contract? And that's from Ken.
It would, but one of the things I want to say, so that's going to be interesting, right? And the reason why I'm posing it like that is because, as you guys know, I just mentioned that we're in the process of closing out a fiscal year for the city of Chicago. So depending on when this is approved, we may be able to go ahead and just extend it from December through June or December through November, depending on the contract that it's for. Or we may have to say we can't go back to December. And then we'll have to go ahead and start all of those budgets in January 2021 because of the closeout that the city of Chicago is currently undergoing. So at this point, I don't want people to go ahead and hold out and be hopeful that we're going to be able to include December. I can't promise that at this point, just because of where we are with not having a response yet from the regional office and understanding that all 2020 invoices are currently due. So I may have to make that decision to go ahead and have these budget periods start in January.
Thanks, Tiffany. Cindy, you're asking a question about whether or not slots for PFA and PI will be reduced. I think you, and in case anyone else doesn't understand, that's part of the state budget, and each year we get a allocation of dollars from the state. We're not anticipating, but I'm not going to speak out of turn and say what will happen. We know that we're in critical as far as funding and everything that's happened, with COVID. We know that we have a new regime in DC, and they are, putting dollars into states and things like that. So we're hoping that with that, some of the things across our nation will stabilize. But we always wait to see exactly what is in the governor's budget to make any predictors about numbers, and we're nowhere near there. And so as we go further into the spring, we'll be able to talk a little bit more whether or not we've heard anything, seen anything, or been told anything. I don't know, and I would be speaking out of turn if I made any prediction on what anything might be or anything that might be different at this particular time. So that's one that would be something we'll move to a forward agenda and talk a little bit more as we're working. Scott, you have a long one in here, but I tried to read it as Tiffany was talking earlier. You're absolutely right. Yes, there's a lot of information that's going on. There's a lot of task force data, a lot of strategic plans. There's a lot of stuff that's going on about children in kindergarten. I will say in the last kids report, CPS, the numbers are ticking up, meaning more children, especially those who are Black and brown, showed up kindergarten ready this past school year. We're in COVID right now, so who knows what the numbers are going to look like again. But and programs weren't even open at the time, and so again, we do know that we are all looking at this, and dollars that are funded about us, making sure that we're ticking forward. One of the things that we did when we put out our RFP, what we said is over time, we're going to be ticking these numbers up. That's why coming back for us and talking about it again is imperative that we do that to make sure that we are putting some of this together, that we're looking at what we need to do in order to make sure that when children leave us, that they're considered kindergarten ready. We use one tool, which is Teaching Strategies Goal in our programs. CPS in the state uses kids and how they align. What kinds of things are they looking for, and how does that align to some of the things that you're doing in your programs? But it is what it is different in that respect. But when we look at funding, if we're not moving forward and we're not ticking up and we're not getting children ready, then we're all going to be out there with people looking at why do we fund this? And so you're absolutely right. This is an emergency, and we need to be focusing on it, and we need to prioritize. And that's why it's our learning agenda at our next meeting, and we're going forward. We've really got to think about what are we doing. We're putting money into programs. We're buying resources as a grantee. We're providing professional development. We're doing all of those different things that we can do. Some of the things that we want to question and see, are they happening on the delegate side? And some of it we have reports on. For example, are all of the teachers who are using the tool going in and actually making sure that they are inter-rater reliable, meaning that they're going in and working with this tool, making sure that they understand what kinds of things that they should be looking for. When we're offering trainings, are teachers able to get in there and take some of that? And is there some adjustments that we need to make? COVID provided us an opportunity to have many more training opportunities in the hands of teachers, and we were very happy to see that. Gave us an opportunity for us to do some additional work as well with Teaching Strategies Goal, and ask them to do some different things on our behalf as well. But we've got to put our feet to the fire, and we've got to talk about it. We can't just look at it, but we need to make sure that we're doing everything that we can to move us forward, and that when children leave us, They're leaving us better than they were when they came, and we have to live to our responsibility, and our responsibility is really about developmentally appropriate practices, and that we're moving children forward and they're ready for kindergarten. So yes, there's more work to come, and we'll continue with it on our agenda, and we do have a lot of work that we'll be doing going forward around this, and that's why I'm asking for the next one, please have your education staff available.
We are.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Sorry. Yeah, we're showing the zip codes. We're going to publish this in the next CSD update, but I wanted you guys, since you were here with us today, and you know, everybody's kind of interested in knowing the zip codes that we were provided from the state that qualify for these GEARS funding. So we're showing them here, but as promised, they will be published in the next CSD update, but you guys are getting them first, okay? So take a look at them. There are 29 of them, and it's starting at 60608, and it's going all the way down to 60659. Actually further than 59, 60827. So those are the zip codes that have been impacted and will receive GEARS funding because of it.
Thanks, Tiffany. And so, yes, Scott, Office of Head Start has announced another COLA, and given we only have contracts through June 30th, will we see COLA funding before the end of the contract year? Probably not. I'm just saying that because, again, everything comes out in the timing that it comes out, and the timing that you're able to actually move those dollars forward. And these are questions that I have for the regional office. When I know more, then I will respond a little bit more to you. Some of, all of our contracts are not, impacted by the June 30th date. But at the end of the day, and meaning that they have, we have our 5-year grant, for example, for EHSCCP. And so, nothing is impacting that. That will go through as it always would. The difference for COLA on the Head Start, Early Head Start grant, it's we won't be able to move things forward to a grant, from the grantee to a delegate beyond June 30th, because we won't have, if we don't have you as a delegate under us. Again, with all of that said, not knowing where everything's going to land, I'm just saying at this point, there's nothing I can say about whether or not that COLA would be through this department or grantee through to you through by June 30th. We've not received anything from Head Start to that point. But we, I will, as always, I leverage questions up to the region anytime I get a question that I can't answer. And I'll definitely respond back to you with what they say. But at this point, I'm going to say no from everything that we do know. And while we're on that point, let me say this one to you as well. Our contract, our Head Start, Early Head Start contract actually ends June 30th as a result of recompete. And so you're also going to receive notification by which you need to stop expending dollars on that grant, because everything needs to be expended by a certain date and encumbered by a certain date. And so we're working right now to make sure that we can get that out to you so that you are not using dollars on June 30th for a grant that ends June 30th. So we're going to be working with delegates around that as well regarding our Head Start and Early Head Start grants. So more information to come. Tasia Evans is asking if we have to close a center, but we offer remote. How do we document attendance? Attendance is documented in COPA, both either center-based or remote. But we'd have to know, and you'd have to communicate with us that that's your intent and that you're closing. And if you are, we have to make sure that you're able to document that service is still being provided to children and families. And so COPA allows it to be done either center or remote. We did change that this year to allow for us to document attendance on either one service model. But if you have questions, Tasia, please reach out to your supervisor for the team that you work with here at DFSS. And looking at questions, that was the last one in the box. And so I'm looking to see if there's any other pieces before I move forward, and it doesn't appear so. And so what I'm going to do, not wanting to keep you longer than necessary, wanting to say thank you, everyone, for jumping onto this webinar with us. As again, the information about the zip codes will come out. We're going to do follow-up over FA1. Well, in addition, we will be doing next month Our learning agenda is around teaching strategies goals. So please go in, pull your reports, know what you know about your site, your children, and how they're faring, how they're doing. And, go ahead with your team and start from what you see, do some of your prep work, think about your planning and what do you need to do to ensure that by June 30th, when your children leave, that they're kindergarten ready. If they're 4-year-olds and still with you over the summer, what are you going to do over the summer with your children? Again, we've got to plan forward for children as we plan forward for our fiscal side. So again, thanks everyone. Thanks for being with us this afternoon. And we will be engaging you again. It is absolutely wonderful. Scott, you don't know how wonderful it is to have new team members and positions filled. Yay, absolutely. We're all excited. Yes, yes, yes. And believe me, we all hands, we needed the hands, So we can't say enough of many thank yous. We were happy that even in a pandemic that they wanted to go out and look for a new job and found a home with us. So we're all very, very pleased. Again, thank you everyone. We will be talking very soon. Again, next month, learning agenda, talking about teaching strategies goal. And we will also be scheduling more time to talk about FA1. We know it's coming. Let's get prepared. Take care, everyone. Stay safe. We understand there's going to be a lot of snow, so take care of yourself. Be safe out there. Take care of yourself and continue to do everything that you're already doing. Thanks for everything. Have a great afternoon.